What's up, everybody? Welcome to Around the Paw. Welcome to everybody that is watching live on Facebook and to everybody that'll be watching this later on YouTube. What's up? It's a great day to be a Clemson Tiger. Clemson coming off another big victory over the Virginia Cavaliers, their sixth straight win, and it runs their record to 6-1. Another big day for the offense. Again, some questions about the defense, and we're going to get into everything that happened yesterday at Death Valley on this episode. So, guys, first up, Griffin, just your thoughts on the game. I was actually doing a double take yesterday, working a cheerleading competition down the road at Dorman High School and watching on my phone, so I was able to see most of it. But again, it looked like the offense did their thing, but again, it was a bit of a slow start like we saw at Wake Forest.
Yeah, there was no touchdown scored in the first quarter compared to, how you saw in that last home stretch. So that was kind of interesting to monitor, but they did eventually wake up, and that started with giving the ball again to Phil Maffa. I think that he is the catalyst for this offense. Cliff raves about him. You could see him pretty animated right now. But I really like how they kind of just begin to kind of just start to do the rush first, and then they open up the passing game, and you kind of saw that success over the second and third quarter. But the biggest takeaway for me, besides being resilient with this team being down 10-3, the first time being down at home all year, was I was really, really excited to see, or I was very, very interested to see how they kind of react in the first and fourth quarter, because over the last two games, the Wake Forest game and the Virginia game, they've been outscored in the first and fourth quarter combined. In the second and third quarter, they dominate their opponents. I don't know the exact numbers, but I know that there's a significant increase in the second and third quarter, and then they're only down like 10 points. But that is something to monitor, because you're going into your toughest stretch of the year, because you have Louisville, you have Virginia Tech, who ran all over whoever they played last week. I forget who they played. And then you have Pittsburgh, who's undefeated at Pitt, and then South Carolina and Citadel. So you really have to play full four quarters. And we saw this last year too, when, Clemson played in that middle second and third quarter. That's when they began to dominate. So that's something I don't want to see. I want to see them start strong and finish strong, especially finish strong, because I know that is going to be huge going into future games.
Yeah, Virginia had a 14-play drive, I think, in that first quarter, which ate up a lot of time. We only had two drives in that first quarter, I think, and but yeah, man, something about 12 o'clock games that we start off slow. So I don't understand it, but yeah, we need to definitely start off fast. So
right, and Cliff, I know you always harp on getting Phil Maffa the football. Yesterday, probably not as many touches again as you would like to see him have. He only had 68 yards rushing, just off the top of my head, but he did have two touchdowns. And once again, we saw the jumbo package come in too with Peter Woods and DeMonte Capehart. He ran behind those two huge defensive linemen. That was successful. And when they say when something works, it's not broke, don't fix it. We saw that set again, and we saw another double pass with Antonio Williams. So obviously Garrett Riley has found something in his playbook that he likes with those two sets. Going forward, if you see it, defense is going to give you a look where you think that'll be successful. Keep running plays like that. Obviously it works.
I completely agree. I really like how the playbook has been expanding, going from, the bubble screens and the play actions that you saw last year. This is truly Garrett Riley's playbook now. And I know, and another play that Garrett, you didn't mention, we saw the end around work again. We saw Cole Turner being able to do it. I believe It was against NC State. They were able to run it through Antonio Williams, who had a 30-yard rush off an end around, and some great blocking. There are a lot of players you really have to credit for this win. I'm going to credit Troy Stellato, the junkyard dog, according to many with this team. Kind of is the difference between, he's more the physical receiver, is able to kind of fight through many defenders compared to, you're stylistically over the top like Wesco's, who were able to beat. So for me, I really like that, especially with Maffa too. His longest rush was 9 yards. And I was talking to Cliff about this, but he was averaging 4 yards a carry almost the whole time. So it is very nice to see a consistent back who's able to give you 3, 4, 5 yards of rush and give you those second and shorts, third and shorts. And that's when the playbook is able to expand and open up and really kind of you're able to attack in really in a lot of different ways. So that's kind of what excites me, because I know for a fact in the next 3 games that I mentioned earlier, you are going to see a type of trick play or a play that kind of is shown from the expansion of the playbook that is going to help this team in the future. And I'm really excited to see what it is.
Yeah, I love seeing Garrett Riley's playbook open up. I think it's going to be great. And like I've said, man, when you get Phil Moffa the ball, he's going to score. He didn't have that big play like I wanted him to, but again, I don't think they gave him the ball enough.
Right. But, I think sometimes, again, when you get into a game and you actually see what looks teams are going to give you, you see what might work a little bit better and what doesn't. Yesterday, I think the pass was there, and I think Cade had another good game. Look, you take away the one interception, and look, it was not a pretty interception. I think it was just a misread, or he locked in too much on one area. But you take that away, and Cade Klubnik had another big game, and I've got the numbers right here. 23 of 35 passing, 308 yards, 3 touchdowns. And Griffin, you mentioned receiving Troy Stellato. He had 7 catches, which was the most on the team, 74 yards, which is second on the team to TJ Moore, who, by the way, the true freshman, had another huge game yesterday. There's a lot of pieces right now that are doing a lot of great things. Another one I'll mention, the tight end behind Jake Briningstool, Olsen Pat Henry. 2 touchdowns yesterday, kind of a breakout game for him. You're seeing him included more and more in the offense. So, what about some of those guys who we've been waiting on to emerge that are finally seizing their moment, and they're really breaking out right now for this Tiger offense?
Going back to Cade really fast, he did say it was a very, very horrible decision, the pass he made. He said he did not see the defender that he threw the ball to. So a very good way to take credibility and know that there is still a lot to work on, because he was very hard on himself about the game. And you look at the numbers, and he played a great game, but he did overthrow a lot of passes. Briningstool was wide open in the end zone, threw it right over his head. And then Olsen Pat Henry's second touchdown, who I thought had a great game, it was underthrown. And he made an incredible catch. And Sweeney talked about it, that catching a low ball is one of the toughest things to kind of coach around. And he made an incredible catch. I thought he was going to drop it because the ball was so low to the ground. So very, very good credit to him. And this is a guy that I'm consistently more and more excited to see as the week goes on. And he kind of had the Randy Moss game, 2 receptions, 2 touchdowns. So I'm excited to continue to see his development as a receiver. I know that he is more in there for the blocking, and that's how he got open was the 4th down call. He was kind of seen as a blocking tight end or a second tight end in the set, expecting a run, and then was able to kind of catch a wheel route, which was nice to see. But again, I think as well, I know Cole Turner had a big catch first drive. Troy Stellato, like we talked about, I think that was a lot more because of the absence of Bryant Wesco. He was not really seen a lot, and Stellato has kind of seen his role elevate, and I'm really happy to see that he's able to take the opportunity to do so, because this has been a guy who has suffered through injury his whole Clemson career. This has truly been the first full season that he's been healthy, and he caught a touchdown last year against Syracuse, which was really, really kind of relieving to see that someone who's going through a lot of adversity to do that. But he's now the veteran of the group. So being able to kind of take advantage when being called on is really, really nice to see. And I hope that his impact, maybe it is a little bit smaller in weeks to come, makes an impact on this team as a whole and make some key plays.
Going back to the tight ends and Olsen Pat Henry, and it was really good to see him, get some action, and he's been getting a lot of action, to be honest. But it's good to see him actually get a touchdown and multiple touchdowns. And yeah, if I'm not mistaken, he said that touchdown catch that was really low to the ground was probably one of the toughest catches he's had to make in a really long time.
Right. And one more thing on the offense before we get over to the defensive side of things. Dabo Swinney did something on Saturday that is very atypical for Dabo Swinney. And the fact that he even publicly said it after the game with very little prompting kind of made me raise an eyebrow a little bit. Normally late in the game, in a blowout game, even when the opponent might have scored a couple of times on the second string, Dabo said he had called the dogs off. He had planned to call the dogs off until Virginia scored. But when they went for 2, he told the starting offense, get back out there. You're going to score again.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to put another one on them. That is very atypical for Dabo Swinney, and particularly against a coach that is one of his, and Tony Elliott, who is a Clemson Tiger, a legendary Clemson Tiger, both as a player and a coach. Were you guys a little bit surprised that he sent the first string offense back out there with under 2 minutes to play, and then openly stated after the game, I did it on purpose and I was trying to score again?
Well,
I like it.
Yeah, I do too. And let me say this first, Griffin, that I looked over to Griffin and I was like, was that CV that threw that ball?
Sure.
And he was like, no, that was Cade, because I was doing a graphic, and doing something with photos, and I look up and we score a touchdown, and I'm like, wow, CV threw a touchdown pass, and then Griffin was like, yeah, that wasn't CV, that was Cade, and I was like, what? But Dabo did say, when Tony Elliott, didn't hold anything back, and threw one of them touchdown passes, he said all he could do was tip the hat to him and be like, okay, it's gonna be like that. Like, it's gonna be like that. And that's when he put I guess that's when he put Cade back in and he threw that touchdown. But that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, he talked about it after the game because he kind of was fighting fire with fire because he saw Tony Elliott run tempo and no huddle on the drive before that. So he was like, okay, let's have some fun here, play fire with fire. Like, I'm not gonna let my guard down just because you're assistant. So it was kind of like that tough love, which I was interested to see. And then I really liked how flawlessly the offense just got back on and scored a touchdown and got back off and then put the backups back in. And then the touchdown after that was just burnt coverage. I mean, so
Yeah.
There's still a lot to work on defensively, like all defenses, and offensively the same way. But it was something it was kind of interesting to see because everybody was leaving and then everyone was like, oh, wait, they just scored again. The offense is back out. So it was cool to see.
I was glad to see it. I was glad to see it.
Me too.
Like,
yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, I mean, my thing is if the other team's not giving up, why not put your starters back out there? I mean, the game was never, let me say this, the game was never in doubt. I don't think it was. And so, but I just like seeing Dabo, put his offense back out there just to get another touchdown and say, hey, this ain't happening.
Right. And, sir, again, a great day for the offense. Just the final numbers. Clemson passed for 345 yards, 308 from Cade Klubnik, Antonio Williams, 34. Vizina did have one completion. He was 1 for 1, 3 yards. Rushing-wise, Phil Maffa, 18 carries, 78 yards. Antonio Williams, 1 for 36. Jay Haynes had 30 yards on 7 carries. Klubnik, 29 more yards on the ground. Keith Adams Jr. had 5 carries for 22. And then receiving – TJ Moore, 4 for 78 and a touchdown. Troy Stellato, 7 for 74. And again, the aforementioned Olsen Pat Henry, 2 catches for 51 yards. Both of his receptions going for touchdowns. 44 yards for Williams, 38 for Brenningstool, and 1 catch for 31 yards for Cole Turner. So a great day for the Clemson offense. Again, well over 500 yards, 540 yards of offense. You'll take it every time. Are you struggling to get insurance coverage for your roof? Don't let multiple claim denials keep you from protecting your home. Sovereign Roofing has a team of experts who know the ins and outs of the system, allowing us to be your professional guide. With up to 2 inspections included with a denied claim, we make sure your roof is properly evaluated and your insurance company can't deny it twice. From new roofs to repairs and insurance claims, our staff provides exceptional service and ensures you get the best results. Trust Sovereign Roofing for all of your roofing needs in South Carolina.
Yep.
Now, on the defensive side of things, I thought Clemson played pretty well defensively yesterday until the backups came in. Calandria for the Cavaliers, he's a good quarterback. If you watched our preview episode, we talked about him. Anthony Calandria was 15 to 26, 159 yards passing. So not eye-popping numbers through the air. Where Virginia really struggled was running the football. Only 68 total yards as a team. Kobe Pace was the team leader, 35 yards on 10 carries. So, on paper, the Clemson defense, not even on paper, they played a really good game. Where I have a moment for concern is the number of yards and the points we're seeing being put up on this Clemson second and third string, because in years past, there's not been much drop off when those guys come in the game. And now all of a sudden, this second unit, I mean, they're just getting torched like a Pop-Tart, for lack of a better way to say it.
Yeah, that is probably a very, very important thing to note. I don't like how kind of the second and third strings are just put in right away when the game's out of hand, because that kind of sparks comeback. I mean, with the Clemson defense, I thought they did a great job. Going into the kind of the Cade interception to the Virginia touchdown, I think that was mostly momentum. But I know that there have been problems with the Clemson defense extending these long plays and these quarterbacks being able to make plays, because that's going to hurt you. I mean, I'm looking again to the future and the quarterbacks that they're going to play, and guys like Kyron Drones. I just drew a blank on the Tyler Shaw, Eli Holstein. They're going to make you pay. So is Lenore Sellers on South Carolina. They're going to make you pay if you are going to make these, if you're going to extend these plays. I'm not discrediting teams like Wake Forest, Stanford, Virginia, but you're going to play better competition. This is going to be your prove it time that you are going to be an ACC championship team. And the 20-yard run by Calandria on 3rd and 17 did not help, in my opinion.
That's not something that should, or it's not something that can or should happen. It shouldn't happen to a team like Clemson. You've got to be able to get off the field right there.
Yeah, but they were able to adjust well. The second and the third quarter, they brought a lot of heat on Calandria. That's why there were a lot more incompletions, the short passes, being able to stuff the run a little bit better. Because I know Xavier Brown had a few early rushes that moved the chains pretty frequently. Penalties were a big thing too. I'm not going to count the face mask call on Peyton Page, because that was reciprocated. There was a missed hold call. I'm not gonna kind of discredit that, but a few PI calls, especially one-on-one. I'm gonna look at the one between Avion Terrell and Malachi Fields. Fields was a little bit taller, and there was a PI called. That was the one struggle I've seen with these Clemson cornerbacks, is when they play tall receivers. There has been a little bit of a problem. I'm gonna look back to Stanford with Ayo Maynor, who got penalties for that, if that makes sense. But you kind of have to watch out for that. When there comes a top receiver that is bigger, the deep threat receiver. Again, looking at the future, I'm thinking Ja'Cory Brooks of Louisville. Again, they're going to make you pay, and the penalties have to clean it up. So if there's anything for the secondary for Coach Mike Reed, for Wes Goodwin, it's helping these younger guys out with preventing future penalties, because they can make you hurt. They can hurt you, especially if it's a 3rd and long, and it reduces morale.
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said, and but hey, I don't know if you guys knew this about Antonio Williams, and this is a quick little stat, and I know Griffin will know this.
Oh, I know exactly what you're going to say. I've already seen it, but
yeah,
you already opened the can, so you go for it.
Yeah. So who is the only receiver to throw back-to-back passes in a game other than Antonio Williams? Who's the only other person?
Garrett, do you know this?
I do. It's Tony Elliott.
Yep, it's Tony Elliott. Yep, that was a crazy little stat, and it's funny. It's funny how things work out. So that was a cool little stat that they said during the post game. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, I saw that too. Just a cool little coincidence. But yeah, look, Tony Elliott is always part of the Clemson family. And again, I don't think Dabo scoring that late touchdown yesterday was done of any malicious nature. I think that was like, okay, you want to keep going? Let's keep going. Let's keep the track meet going. And I think I'm almost certain the two of them probably got together and had a laugh about it after the ball game. But I thought it was a pretty clean game on both sides. Virginia certainly put up a fight. But, Griffin, I think you hit the nail on the head when you said going forward, you're going to start facing the best offenses you've seen all year. You've already seen Georgia. That was a long time ago. Louisville can score. You're going to see you've got 2 weeks to prepare for them. They just scored 45 points on Miami, lost 52-45. Pittsburgh, top 10 offense in the country, statistically. Virginia Tech, and it was Boston College. Virginia Tech played.
That's right.
This week, by the way. Yep. You've got some teams coming up on your schedule that can score the football, just like you can. Yeah. Right now, the offense is in a good place, but you've got to shore some things up on defense, or you might find yourself in a couple of games that are shootouts.
No, you could look at this in the Georgia game. They let Carson Beck have time. He made plays. Again, and I'm not being wishful here, but let's say you do win out and make the ACC championship game. You're most likely playing Miami against a quarterback who will probably be sitting in the front seats in New York City for the Heisman ceremony. He'll make you pay. That's for sure. So it's all about closing out and executing and finishing. I think that's the kind of the big thing for improving here. For the fourth quarter, you have to finish strong. For the second and third strings, if you're playing, you have to finish strong. If you're playing a team and you're defending a drive and you're up by 7 with 2 minutes to go, you have to finish out there. And I know that the defense did that last year too. I know that they did that against Kentucky, Notre Dame. Those are kind of the games I'm looking at, but we haven't really seen a close game in the fourth quarter yet. And I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but these upcoming 3 games are going to be closer games. I mean, I hate to break it to you for all the Clemson fans that have really just sat back, relaxed, and enjoyed these last few games because it's been a fun ride. This is kind of where the champions are made here. This is when I will decide if Clemson is a ACC or in a college football playoff contender. Because, I mean, the Georgia loss looks better. Georgia beat Texas yesterday. Again. So, I mean, the losses are looking better, which is good. But you just have to improve a few minor things. I know that I'm being pretty critical here, but you just have to be a little bit more efficient on finishing. And I think that this team will be in Charlotte in a few weeks.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I mean, I said this. The one thing I said, I think it was either last episode or the episode before that. The one thing that I need to see better of was for the offensive line to get to the quarterback. And, if I'm not mistaken, we had 4 sacks yesterday, but I still felt like, and maybe this is just me and something that I think should happen, but they need to get more push, and that'll help, flush the quarterback, or they need to contain the quarterback a little bit better, maybe. Maybe that's what I'm trying to say. And because when those quarterbacks get out, at least the ones that we played, like this past weekend, when they get out and they know how to run, and he proved it with that 20-yard run or whatever. And so the 20-yard run that he had, but that's the one thing I need to see better. That on the defensive side, at least. I think on the offensive side, going back to that, Cade just had one mistake, and he had a few, but he had one big one that was glaring, and it was that interception. So there's a few things that I need to see, but on the defensive side, I want to see the defensive line get more push.
Yeah, agreed on all accounts. But you're happy for the win, 6 in a row now for the Tigers. They continue to roll offensively. And overall, things are pretty good in Tiger Town right now. Hey, while we've got everybody who's watching or tuning in, we'll go ahead and knock out next week's preview episode. The bye week has absolutely no shot to beat Clemson whatsoever. Tigers by 100 or whatever they want. That's it. That's the comment. That's the preview.
Fortunately, Sweeney did say after the game, post-game, he expects to have Tyler Brown back. He expects to have Wesco back. I apologize. Tyler Brown, it really depends on the person. That's what he kind of said for his injury. But he wants to have him back in 2 weeks. If not, he'll just continue to kind of review the process. But expect Wesco back for Louisville, which is a very, very big addition. Tyler Brown is still, as Sweeney says, day-to-day, a little bit questionable, but we'll monitor as the situation goes on.
Hey, Sounds good. And I always hate bye weeks because I'm one of those that will count down and look forward to the game every single week. And knowing that Clemson won't be playing next Saturday, it's a little bit of a bummer, but hey, we'll get ready for Louisville in 2 weeks, and that should be a great game. I'll be there for that one. So you can check us out then. But in the meantime, check out our website, clemsonsportsmedia.com. We've always got great daily content there. We appreciate everybody who watched or is watching this live on Facebook. You can also catch it on YouTube. Cliff will do a great job getting that up there. That'll be put out on our social media. You can follow us at CU Sports Media on X, formerly Twitter. Also, give us a like and subscribe here on YouTube. It helps us out, helps our sponsors out, and we appreciate them for their support. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to do this at all. So that's going to do it for us on this episode of Around the Paw. As always, I'm Garrett Mitchell along with Griffin Barfield and Clifton Kennedy. It's always a great day to be a Clemson Tiger, and as always, we sign off by saying, Go Tigers.
Go Tigers.
Go Tigers.